Hello, everyone. Happy March 21st, 2022. My name is Julius, President of Arlington Branch NAACP, and we thank you for, again, joining us on our March General Membership Meeting. With that being said, we're going to jump right into it. We don't have much time. We're going to suspend the rules because we have a set agenda. All those in favor of suspending the rules and accepting the set forth agenda, please say aye.
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 All opposed have the same right. The ayes have it. Okay, Madam Secretary, we are going to, we have some people joining the call. So what we're going to do is we'll take the roll call later on the backside. We're going to go right into the financial report for this month. Are you ready, Mr. Treasurer? I'll pull it up here.
Yes, I am.
Okay, second here. I think we have it here. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, for the month of February 2022, in our business savings account, we had a deduction of $20,000, which was transferred to our checking account, and we will explain that when we get to the checking account. The beginning balance of our savings account was $181,841.39, and after the deduction, $161,841.39. The reason for the transfer of $20,000 is because we made $4,000 or $5,000 payments for scholarships. Okay, and that was the only significant amount that came out of our checking account. The beginning balance of the checking account was $20,454.40. There were total deposits of $21,720 and withdrawals $21,065.71. The ending balance $21,108.69. Total balance for the account $182,950.08. That is.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer, for providing the financial report for this month. If you have any questions or concerns about, as a member, if you have any questions or concern about the Treasurer's report, financial report, please reach out to the Treasurer or the Assistant Treasurer, and we will make sure we answer all of your questions. Remember, this is not our money, this is your money, and we try to remain fully transparent about how we spend your money. All right, with that being said, we're going to go into a video tonight before we bring on our guest speaker. Give me just a second. All right, we're going to get started.
No peace, no justice, no peace, no racism, police, mother,
my son wasn't given a
Oh, excuse me. Here we go.
chance to live. I have a chance to live, so I will risk whatever it takes to say his name.
Marcus Brown. Say my son's name, Marcus Brown. Say my son's name, Marcus Brown.
I don't know all of their names, but what I do tell you is I stand for all the mothers out here who lost their sons to police brutality.
Police for racists. Police for racists. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Yeah. Justice. Yeah. Justice.
It's unbelievable that we have to keep doing this. It's embarrassing.
Strategic and measured as we battle this system of oppression.
we must keep our focus on readdressing the systemic racism.
For a history lesson, I'll share with you the story of Reverend Wayne Fox. Anybody know who he was? From Oklahoma. He was a black pastor that defeated the Klan.
Peacefully, demand persistently, and fight politically. But most of all, we must vote November. Don't let the politics fool you. Who you elect and bring these seats or the people that set the policy for you in the community. So if you want change, put somebody else in office.
The people arrested for marijuana possession are black here in Arlington. 50% of the people arrested for driving on a suspended license are black. 2 times more black Arlingtonians are arrested for trespassing than white Arlingtonians. What we need to do as a community is to reduce our reliance on police and prisons to solve our community's problems. We need to replace our reliance on police and prisons with services that are compassionate, rehabilitative, restorative, so that we can be a safer, healthier, and more equitable community.
One major concern stands out to me, and that is the failure to screen or properly monitor for medical needs, including alcohol intoxication and alcohol withdrawal. It's not just the sheriff. In 2015, the police arrested a homeless man named Edward Strawn. He had a blood alcohol level of 0.34. This is a deadly level of alcohol intoxication, yet he was transported not to the hospital, but to the county jail, where he was charged with drunk in public and trespassing. He was homeless, and he was dead in less than 24 hours. I wonder what would have happened to a white college student who blew a 0.34 in our community. Would he have been transported to the jail, charged with drunk in public and trespassing? Absolutely not. I think we all know that's true. We are failing men of color. We are failing people who are homeless in this community, and we do not have proper detox procedures in the jail or through the police department. Thank you.
The NAACP Arlington chapter continues to call for answers tonight. Meanwhile, Daryl Becton's family has now retained counsel.
I looked at the case of Mr. Becton and thought about what if he was my brother, or what if he was my uncle, or even my father.
It has been a year since family members learned of Daryl Becton's death at the Arlington County Detention Center.
This family who came to us were asking questions, but no answers were returned.
In a statement last October, officials said Bector was found unconscious in his cell and later pronounced dead. But even now, his official cause of death has not been released to the public.
We're troubled by what we've seen and heard.
7 News has now learned from the Office of the Commonwealth's Attorney that a man who worked with the jail's healthcare provider, Horizon Health, is now charged in connection to Becton's death investigation. The suspect, Antoine Smith, is accused of falsifying a patient record.
We've asked the Sheriff's Department about their protocols, about their procedures, about how they intake, and do health checks. That's part of an ongoing conversation.
Following the Horizon employee's arrest, the county is now terminating Horizon's contract with the jail. They'll start with a new healthcare provider on November 15th. Leaders with the county's NAACP chapter have now been tracking the number of deaths at the detention center.
It's been 6 deaths in 6 years.
And what they found is that many of the recent inmates who died have been men of color.
We at the NAACP, we still remain firm and want to find out what actually happened. And we don't believe the buck stops just at Horizon. No one should be dying in our detention facilities.
Becton was waiting for a court hearing following an alleged probation violation. when he died. The 46-year-old father of 5 from D.C. was previously charged in connection to an auto theft. He pleaded not guilty. And Becton's family sent me a statement tonight saying that they're hoping for justice and closure following his death. We did reach out to Horizon Health for more information about that suspect's employment history, but so far they have not responded.
Just about an hour ago, we filed a $10 million lawsuit in connection with the death of Daryl Becton. Daryl Becton was a 46-year-old young man that was held at the Arlington County Detention Facility. He did not receive the medical care that he needed, and as a result, he died tragically very shortly after he went there. This is a preventable death, as the lawsuit points out.
And I get a phone call saying that my son is dead, and I'm just like, what? I mean, this is just out the blue. My son is dead, and I mean, it's just like, I'm so mad. I'm hurt, and I'm disgusted, and I'm fed up, and I hurt every day. I don't even know what's going on. I'm just all he gonna see. He didn't even address anything. Are you Daryl Becton's mom? But yes, your son is dead. That's all. That's what he said to me, and I'm hurt. I'm really hurt because it could have been addressed another way. Nobody was home at the time that I was in there, and I was just like, I was lost for words at this point. I really am. I'm just mad. I'm mad. I'm mad. I'm mad. I'm mad. Oh God, I'm just mad. And it's not fair. I done lost 3 people already in one, and the whole damn year ain't even went past. And I don't understand a lot of things. And I'm hurt. I'm about to lose my damn mind because I don't even know what's going on. Every day
The lives of these individuals matter. This family cares deeply about this individual. You don't have to have a fancy shirt and tie to be an important person. You're an important person when you're meaningful to others and to God.
I'm here in my capacity with the NAACP. A couple questions, couple statements. How can a county with a Black population of 9% have a jail population of over 70%? After 7 deaths, a $10 million lawsuit, an impending Department of Justice investigation, and years of outcry from this community, you all have been silent on this issue. The deaths are accelerating, yet we haven't heard a peep from this board on what you're doing to solve this. This is and will become your legacy for communities of color in our community. Inaction from our elected leaders at a time when Black lives are again on the line. Managed to do just this. Anything else is simply performative. It cannot be accepted in this community. If we can find the money to build a $70 million park, we can find the money to make sure that people in this community stop dying in our jail. Thank you.
Again, good evening, members and friends of the Arlington Branch NAACP, and we thank you for being with us this evening. Hats off to our third VP and many others who put that video together and thought it was important that we share it tonight with our members. We're still on the battlefield for social justice and civil rights, y'all. It may be 2022, but hasn't much changed. We have a long way to go. Tonight, we have the pleasure of having with us our county manager, Mark Schwartz. Mark and I go back a good bit. Mark, are you here with us?
I am here.
Yeah, Mark, where he's at? I'm trying to find, hey, all right, let me go in spotlight, man. Are you going to tell a joke tonight, Mark?
No jokes tonight, JD.
Well, Mark, I know 15 minutes, of course, is not going to be a lot of time to go through all the many nuances of the budget, but for our members tonight, in the time allotted, and we know you have somewhere to be at 8 o'clock, can you take the first 15 minutes and just give us some broad strokes overview of what you're looking at this year? I know there's many meetings that have taken place, constitutional officers, departments, you name it. But what is it, you know, for what the NAACP does, whether it's social justice, criminal justice, you name it, the full gamut. Talk to us a little bit about what you think is important for us to note as you move forward in this with this proposed budget. Then what we'll do on the backside, we have some questions teed up that came in. We'll just ask you a few. Whatever we don't get to, Mark, we'll send it back to you by mail, by email. But the floor is now yours, sir.
Thank you, sir, and I appreciate the invitation, and glad to see you and all the other members here. What I'm going to do is I have 15 minutes for a presentation. I'm probably not going to take nearly as long, and leave the rest of the time for questions. What I'm going to do is share my screen. I'm not a real expert at Zoom, so just tell me that you can see this, because I'm hitting the share button. Okay.
I can see it.
You can see it. Okay, great. So what I want to do is I'm going to bring you up to date on where we are in the process, but I wanted to start with, you know, we have a $1.5 billion budget. And just to give you an overview of how this budget stacks up to the last few years, because we've been through the pandemic, our revenues are up. They're growing at a fairly strong rate. We're not quite back to where we were before the pandemic. And we have managed, the one thing I'm very proud of what we've done over the last 2 years, which was to essentially continue to provide in-person services as needed, and then reinvent ourselves to provide virtual services. It was only, I think at this point, 2 weeks ago, when our last department came back in some form during the week to have people here at their desks. We're still providing a lot of virtual services, and that has been a big plus. And also the services we provide over the last 2 years, our biggest public health effort in history, and not so much just focusing on making sure that people were getting vaccines and taken care of, but the real work we did on eviction prevention, and at the beginning, people focused on providing food for those people who didn't have it. A lot of work that's still ongoing and very active. And then finally, the biggest challenge we face, which is not unusual to anybody else out in the employment world, is recruitment. Now, I've asked for some new positions in the budget, but one of the things that we have focused on and highlighted as we've had conversations over the last month going through each departmental budget is there are many places, not all places, where we're finding a very, very difficult recruiting environment. And that is true, I think, in private industry as well as governmental industry, government. And so when I proposed my budget on February 12th, at this point about 5 weeks ago, I paid close attention to what the county board guidance was. And we had built a budget last year, which relied, fortunately, on a lot of federal funds that came through the CARES Act or the American Rescue Plan. And in proposing this budget, I made sure we cut back on our reliance of that one-time money to fund ongoing costs, cut that in half, which required cutting about $8 million out of the budget that was relying on one-time money and moving that to an ongoing source of funds. And then also proposed a budget with tax rates staying steady. That doesn't mean your tax burden isn't going up, because for most people, they saw an increase in their real estate tax bills. And we were also charged by the board to look at equity considerations. I'll talk a little bit about that, the workforce, and then also you can see the other items on that slide. So I don't have to read them to you. So overall, you can see tax revenues went up 7%, which is a fairly healthy increase. Real estate assessments, our biggest source of revenue, was up almost 3.5%. But most of that was on the residential side. And then on the commercial side, a bit of a surprise that we were even positive, given the what we have experiencing right now is about a 20% commercial vacancy rate. And then our consumption taxes have really been bouncing back. It's a 19% increase, but again, that's from a very low base over the last 2 years. We're not back to where we were before. The budget, we're almost a $1.5 billion ongoing concern. And you can see that our biggest cost actually, as it should be, is the transfer to the Arlington Public Schools of $576 million. That was an increase of almost 9%. And you see the county operating budget went up about 3.5%. Wanted to give a little bit of context because, as I said, schools are our biggest and our most important expenditure. You can see that over the last 5 years, you can see the percentage change in the adopted transfer to Arlington Public Schools. And also we graphed that with enrollment. You know, our schools, I think, have been going through some very difficult periods of time over the last 2 years with a little drop of enrollment. And frankly, all schools across the country have been performing some heroic acts to make sure that teachers can come in and teach our kids. But there's a lot of work to do there. And we're very happy that we're able to provide that additional funding to our schools. Let me go down to the next page here. I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about, and I think many of you have probably already seen this, the 5 questions that we ask. And we started off our budget work sessions with the county board. They started back at the very beginning of this month. And I thought it was important. The first person who spoke to the county board about our budget was Samia Bird, our Chief Race and Equity Officer, who spent some time describing not only her role, where she was sitting in on all the budget conversations, but also the role that all county staff took in taking a look at our proposed expenditures. And we went through each of the departmental budgets and asked those 5 questions you can see there. Who's benefiting, who's burdened, who's left out, how do we know, and what did we do about it? And you know, those questions, when you get to a very granular level in the budget, sometimes those questions don't really reveal an answer. Sometimes we don't have the data that reveals an answer. As I was going through, I wanted to make sure, at least in my mind, the 3 major things that we were focusing on from my perspective was, let's see how we're continuing along in our trip with Destination 2027, the health impacts, people of color. Again, this is absolutely uncontroverted. If you're a person of color, if you're living on one side of the street as opposed to the other, and you're a different color, you have a much shorter life expectancy in the county. How are we doing on that? How are we also doing on our school achievement gaps, which have a big, I don't want to say big, there's a gap, a racial gap there. And then also, most importantly, the place where we have a lot of control is our land use policy and the amount of money we're investing in housing. So we asked each of those 5 questions on all the budget presentations. We focused on some of those 3 major areas there, and then also making sure we're following through on our commitments. Now, we had a lot of work. I see Kent Carter's here. Hello, Kent, who's on our police practices group, and some other members here. We did that work back in 2020, and we're in many places, it's more than a year since then. We made investments, the county board did last year, to make sure we're following through on those commitments, to make sure that our police are not the first responder for mental health crises. We've invested a lot of money in that. The challenge we've had is hiring the people and standing up those the staff to make those changes. And then also had lengthy conversations with Ms. Bird and the group that works on racial equity work in the county about whatever resources they needed internally, and those are also included in the budget. Wanted to talk a little bit, because I had talked about the priority for our workforce. These are the biggest raises that have been proposed for county staff in at least the last 15 years. And you can see, I don't need to read them for you here. We have not only increases for general employees and public safety employees, but we've also raised the lower part of the wage scale. So anybody who is at the bottom is automatically bumped up. And those people who've been here for a long time, who've hit the ceiling, we've raised the ceiling. So there's room for people to grow. We've also added in a one-time bonus proposal, and we continue with job studies to make sure that our job classifications are keeping up with our competitors in the region. And we have a lot of pay issues with people who are hired right at entry. We have some people who in our workforce who've been here 3 or 4 years who are sometimes supervising people who are making as much, if not more money than they are, given the way our hiring has been done. Very lucky not to have a premium increase for our healthcare, which I'm happy to say. So that was a big focus, was our workforce. Again, on housing, you can take a look at this, but there were 4 areas that we focused on. One was eviction prevention. We have worked very closely with providers in that area to make sure that nobody was evicted, and make sure that people who were living in housing had the money they needed to make sure that they were not put out on the street. We work closely for the use of all our federal vouchers, and we're continuing a level investment in our Affordable Housing Investment Fund, which, in addition to the kinds of commitments we've made in Barcroft, which is a generational commitment, and the other commitments that we've made with land, whether it's Crystal Houses or the investments we're making in Park Shirlington. I'm proud with what we're doing. We always could do more. And then also the work we're doing on housing grants. Let's go on. Our next focus had been the environment, where we're doing a lot, continue our work on energy assessments. We're added money for an action fund. And I'll have a lot more to say about this as we move through the month before budget adoption. Some more things coming here on the environment. Then our other budget priorities, you know, I hate to keep bringing this up, but we still are in a pandemic, though the numbers are dropping on hospitalizations. We have a wary eye on what's going on in Europe. We have the investments from the police practices group, additional investments in public safety, including a wellness program for our officers, improving our development review. And then again, this year, we're going to be okay with Metro. I'm very anxious about the future of public transit as we go forward. So a lot of capital investments. I'm not going to read each of these to you. A lot of work being done in our parks and our neighborhoods, and for transportation and technology. So what have we done in the past month? We've had work sessions with all our departments. Boards advertised the tax rate at current levels. We're waiting to see what happens on the state budget. Our incoming governor has proposed elimination of the grocery tax, and it's unclear what kind of impact that's going to have on us. I announced a week ago we're going to add some additional resources beyond what I proposed in February for our housing program. We're going to be adding some additional staff to assist with the Barcroft project, and also with an assessment of our ongoing assessment of affordable housing. Coming up, you'll all have an opportunity to testify at our budget and tax hearings, March 29th and 31st. We're going to be waiting on some revenue updates. We do those traditionally at the very beginning of April. Wait to see what happens with the state budget. The county board is going to adopt the budget towards the latter part of April, and the school board comes behind us with an adoption in May, and we begin the fiscal year July 1st. And then we get to start it all over again. As we come into fiscal 24, we're going to have, I'm going to unshare my screen here. We're going to have collective bargaining for the first time since the 1970s in the county. And we have 2 unions that have been certified to do that collective bargaining. And that is going to be our fire union and our police union. So JD, I'm going to turn it back to you. I don't know how you want to curate the questions. I've talked plenty.
Thank you, Mark. No, I'm good. Thank you, Mark, for that quick overview. Those slides, can you have someone from your team drop them in the chat for us? So I remember, so the attendees today can, will have a copy.
I'd be happy. My team will be me.
Where's Brian? Where's Brian at tonight when you need him?
He's here somewhere. I'm going to try to figure out how to do that. But let's see.
So, thank you for that. There's a number of questions, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. What we typically do, because of course 15 minutes you can't answer all the questions, we're going to compile, we're going to get all the questions, and then we're going to of course dress it up, send it to you, ask for you to reply. But there are some questions that came in advance. I'm going to go ahead and share a screen so you'll see these questions. Can you see these, Mark?
I can, yeah, thanks.
So there were individuals who registered had an option to put a question in for you tonight. Let's talk about number 1.
Okay.
Please identify with specificity what budget item relates specifically to jail death, and please do not include grant money funds. Can you answer that one for us?
Okay, so a couple of things, and I think that you're probably aware of pieces of this. So with things that go on within the confines of the jail, it's not just the Arlington County Sheriff's Office, but our Department of Human Services that provides a number of services in the jail. So I have to say that the first thing we're focused on is filling some of our empty positions. We've had a real challenge having all the positions that we have that are billeted to help not only in the jail, but in the community with mental health. We've had some fairly high vacancy rates. So what you would see in the proposed budget is a reliance on bonuses and other kinds of incentives to try to fill those positions. And at this point, we're having conversations with the board about whether there need to be additional resources. And also, we fully funded the additional costs that came with the new medical contract and fully funded the position that was overseeing that medical contract. In the past, the sheriff's office, I think, had been relying on their own personnel, but there was another position that had just been added that allows oversight of that medical contract. That's specifically about the jail death, what's happening in the environment of the jail. I did make mention earlier about how we made a lot of progress, I think, with some recommendations about co-response for people with mental health issues. And that has been a real struggle for us, as it has been for a lot of communities, to make sure that the first responders who are showing up aren't always police officers. So that's again, a work in progress, but it's been a real challenge here and in other communities.
Yeah, thank you. Another question that came up, and again, there's plenty of them in the chat, but I'm gonna, go to these individuals who wrote into us first. In general, is there a concern on your part about our unleased vacant office space right now in Arlington as a county manager?
Yes, there's a big concern on that part.
Does this have an impact on the tax revenue? That's the question.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, I feel like, and somebody here is going to know the Bible better than me, but there's got to be a parable where you're like, you die of thirst when you're surrounded by floods. And so this is what I'm thinking a little bit about, sort of that parable, which is that we have a lot of people who want to live in our community, and we've got a lot of empty space in our community. Now, the empty space happens to be in our commercial sectors, but we've got a lot of people who want to live in our community. And to me, there's got to be a way we can do a better job of marrying those two up. So, but in the meantime, when we have our commercial spaces at about 20% vacancy rate, and for years we talked about, well, people were going to telework more. I mean, we're all living a complete revolution in the way work's done, and every percent vacancy rate really costs us millions of dollars in tax revenue. And at the end of the day, not very few people are paying taxes out of their pockets that come close to paying for the services that we deliver, and the balance has always been picked up by business. And so when we have those vacancies, that puts a lot of stress on our budget. In the last year and a half or 2 years, we've been helped out by the federal government. This year, we're weaning ourselves from that, but it does cause me some concern. I'm not sure that the 50-50 split we've relied on between residential and commercial is going to hold up going into the future. I'm very concerned about that. Had a number of conversations about what we need to do to sort of free up some of our zoning limitations, maybe to make that office space a little bit more available for other people.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Another question we have what is the county doing to support the fire department's REI initiatives?
Okay, so I would really encourage people to go back, and I know this is going to sound a little bit dry for people, but to go back to the presentation that was made by Chief Pavlitz about what's going on in the fire department. There were a couple of things he talked about in his budget presentation.
Right.
There's the internal piece and the external piece. We have one of the chiefs in the department is working really closely with the department on sort of introducing at a person-to-person level the race and equity initiative, and there's a lot of group work that's been done on that. The other thing that Chief Pavlitz talked about, and we should just put it out on the table, which is that we still see our fire department responding to calls in the community, and I don't want to say it's a lot, but one's more than enough cases where it continues, where some of our residents are asking not to be treated by firefighters because of the color of their skin. And that's a real problem. And Chief Pavlitz is doing what he can inside the department, where there's been, I think, some cultural issues that he's tackling head on. But we also have those issues in our community when people call for emergency assistance.
Yeah, like racial profiling, right? Let's go. So one question I have, and then we're going to pivot to a question that's in the queue here. I want to know more about, and I know this Commonwealth Attorney and probably a few other offices, but I want to hear from you, like your take on county funding outside of grants as it relates to supporting restorative Arlington. And, because that's going to take on, I know there's some grant funding that's come in. Are we putting in any money there for that platform this year?
Yeah, so through a little bit of a quirk of the way some of the grant money works, is that I was actually the grant applicant.
Okay.
Money, I had put my name on that grant, the money that went to the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. And so this came up a little bit, I think, when Mike Heminger came to the board. We have a notice of funding availability we're going to push out over the next month or two, that we've set aside some money for setting up a permanent organization outside the county government for restorative justice. Right now, Kimiko Lightly works in my office, and we've been doing that over the last 2 years to get that outside of the county government. So there is money set aside from last year's budget. And as we move forward, that money remains in the budget and is available for that work. So a lot more to come. I think the way that it's organized is going to change once we get to the new fiscal year in July.
Great. All right. What I'm going to do, because I'm going to go in order, we have time for probably 2 questions. We have a question from a member of our executive committee, Simone Walker, and then we have our housing committee chair. I'm going to have them just come off the microphone and ask you the question, because we're all friends here, Mark. So Kelly.
Yeah, JD, I would encourage you to have members of your executive committee be allowed to ask questions, because it's important.
Mark, you're trying to be cute. Hey, Kellen, go ahead. Ask your question.
Thanks, JD. So my question is around the federal eviction prevention assistance that we've had during COVID. And my understanding is that funding is going to dry up this summer. But what I didn't see was additional funding allocated on the county side to bridge any gaps that we might see in the next fiscal year when that additional funding goes away. I was curious, was that intentional? And if so, is the county just thinking that we're going to go back to pre-pandemic levels of assistance that are needed? Because I would think it's probably going to stay elevated, at least for a little while longer.
Yeah, so thanks for that question, Kellen. And I think we're actually going to be meeting with you in the subcommittee you have in a couple of weeks to go through a lot more on the housing issues. So we've been I think the biggest user in the Commonwealth of the state portal for relying on the eviction prevention money. And there is I think you correctly identified, there is a chance as we get later in this calendar year that some of that money is going to go away. We have allocated some of our one-time funding of the American Rescue Plan funding, set aside money in our budget for future eviction prevention through the rest of the fiscal year. But I cannot tell you, because I do not know, that will be enough for what's going to be required. So we have, there's still some unallocated funds that I put on the table for the board, somewhere between $1 million and $2 million. And we also will be giving the board a budget update, like I said, in the first week of April, looking at spending from this year. And as needed, we will set aside the funds to make money available for eviction prevention. You asked a sort of a larger policy question about would we be, I would say before the pandemic, we didn't automatically set aside money for eviction prevention, and we did it during the pandemic. As to that policy question going forward, that is an absolutely spot on question. I don't know the answer to it. And that's something that I think that's going to have to be determined as the board adopts the budget. So I don't have a firm answer for you, but I think that's something that's going to have to be determined.
Thank you, Mark. So we still have time. I know 7:45 is the drop dead time. We have time for probably 2 questions. I want to see if Simone Walker, who's on our exec committee and co-chair of our education committee, wants to ask her question, and then we're going to go to Katie Sunderland, who has a question. So Simone?
Yes, hi. A 2-part question. What are your top 3 equity priorities for the county? And what steps have you taken to, if any, to implement any equity toolkits in your budget to ensure that equity is not overlooked and is prioritized as you are developing your budget?
Yeah, so thanks for that question. You know, there's 2 different ways that I could answer that question. One is more of a procedural and the other is more of a substantive. I think I laid out in the slides, at least when I was going through, the 3 areas that I was looking at. One is sort of just the general health and well-being of the population based on certain metrics. We have a dashboard that we use based on census data that takes a look at where we are on investments in the community. So we did that as we're going through on the health metrics. Also, again, I talked about schools. We don't really get into the schools business about how they allocate funds, but we feel like that should be one of the first priorities. And the third one is really, and I think that it's not so much money as it is, we've done a lot of work to, I put it this way, to state the obvious about the history of, how our zoning's been used in the county. Those are the 3 priorities from a substantive policy area. On a procedural side, I did note that we've added funds internally. We have brought on an external contractor to do training with the entire county workforce. As a matter of fact, we're starting all that up next week, going through not just your basic DE&I, but some deeper training, and that's starting up next week with the senior management team. We've also, that's number 1. Number 2, we've had a number of training modules offered to every person in the county. And number 3, we've been working really hard at it, is just because, and I was a little bit anxious. I love Samia being our Chief Race and Equity Officer, because I think it's fantastic to have her energy and her drive. One of the things I was a little bit concerned about was by picking someone who's a Chief Race and Equity Officer, there might be certain people in the organization who said, oh, okay, we've got somebody to take care of that. That's going to be that's going to be how that issue is handled. And working very, very diligently with people to let them know, and this just happens in a one-on-one basis. It's not something that you're going to see in the budget, but just talking to people about how this is not a flavor of the month. The resolution was passed almost 2.5 years ago. And I feel like we were doing work before that, but those are sort of on the three procedural things that we're focused on. And I'm happy to get into more detail offline.
Okay, Mark. Yeah, we're going to have to get into some details. We probably got to bring in Samia again to have a extended conversation with her about all things equity. Last question, Katie Sunderland, you had a question?
Sure. Yeah, just one thing that I've always struggled to understand is how school capacity issues goes into planning on new developments. I understand that, APS has seen what I consider to be a pretty significant decline in enrollment, but as we continue to approve more developments, I certainly don't expect that to continue. I hope people continue to come back to public school. So just want to understand how that intersects with planning.
Yeah, so there are 2 things usually going on when the county board is taking a look at development. We have do a lot of long range planning and make certain assumptions based on our zoning and what the maximum capacity is under our zoning for, I'll give you an example. When we're adding a residential building, the county board just took a look at the Wendy's site here in Courthouse and was making an estimate. We made an estimate there about the number of students that would be generated. Those broad numbers are already included in our planning estimates going out to, we work with the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments. We include that in our long range estimates. So when we're going through and doing planning, we have that built in. As to what a specific project does, there's clearly an impact with that. But I wanted to get back to, I think, something that JD raised a little bit earlier. you know, the magic to that, it's not really magic, is that with each of these buildings that get developed, we want to make sure that we're getting tax revenue that is going to then be sent back to our schools. Right now, schools get about 47% of every tax dollar that comes out. So I know sometimes people get a little bit concerned that, you know, we're building and there doesn't seem to be any way to make sure that we're dealing with the impact, but there's, through the revenue sharing principles, we have this automatic 47% of tax revenue that goes to the schools to deal with the capacity issues. It doesn't mean that marries up perfectly.
Yeah, I worry about the space.
Katie. No, this ain't SIFED. I'm just talking. No, I love SIFED too, and the president, Alan. Just want to, let's go and get this thing right. We're at time, and Mark, we really appreciate it. Katie, no harm, no foul. We got to end 7:45. Mark has somewhere to go, but Mark, we thank you for being with us this evening, and I think someone may have shared the slide, but this was limited time. Again, Katie, don't feel we can. You know how to get in contact with Mark, and so does everyone else. We have a lot to cover, but thank you for your time tonight, sir.
Yeah, I want to also thank you and all the members of the NAACP. You work really hard, and keep up the good work. So be in touch with you.
We're going to continue to agitate, Mark. You already know that.
Really? Yeah. You got to make that kind of trouble, John Lewis stuff.
There you go. All right, take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah. Real quick, everyone, before we move into the next part of the agenda, thank you for your questions. I do want to take a moment, and then we're going to have a moment of silence. I hope Reverend Davis is still on, because we should have did this at the beginning, but I do want to recognize a delegate who's with us, Honorable Patrick Hope, our Commonwealth Fraternity, Honorable Person Dekani Tofty, and School Board Member Mary Caderna. Thank you for joining us. Real quick, we have to just take a few moments. Pastor Davis, are you still on with us?
Yes, Mr. President.
If you don't mind, just a minute or two. We had that first showing of today was very deep, and I know we had to get right in and see Mark, have him speak before he leaves. But can we have a moment of prayer, just a minute or so, and then we'll get back onto the agenda?
Yes, of course. Let us just take a moment this evening to center ourselves. For all that we have experienced throughout this day, for our lives, our health, and our strength, we are eternally grateful. And we ask tonight for guidance, wisdom, and support throughout this meeting. We ask that you give us a peace that surpasses all understanding, but also, God, that you will propel us to action so that there is equality and equity in our community. Help us, strengthen us, bless us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Davis, Chair of our Religious Affairs Committee, and thank you as well, Vice Chair Rosa Dunkley, for being on. All right, we're going to pivot and go right into our small business spotlight tonight. Chair Brew and Jones.
Hey, JD. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Okay, give me 1 second. Can I actually go next, JD? I need to do a little bit of a transition here.
Okay, well, I know who's ready. I know Political Action.
Yes, they got it.
Jamie,
Megan's going to bail me out.
Jamie's here. You ready, Jamie?
Yep, Megan and I are going to tag team, but yes.
Okay, cool.
Swap in another Megan.
Here we go.
So Megan and I are going to split our time. But we wanted to focus our time particularly on a couple of updates from the Virginia Assembly. The Virginia Assembly wrapped up its session on Saturday, March 12th. As a reminder, we are a nonpartisan organization, and our work here in Arlington as a branch is to support the state conference in their legislative priorities. So just as a reminder, I'm popping into the chat there the state priorities that the Virginia State Conference set out for this session. They were robust. They were a combination of proactive legislative initiatives to advance the NAACP's agenda, as well as some protective measures to secure some of the victories that had been legislatively secured in prior years, particularly in voting rights and criminal justice. So this session, I would describe it as a pretty transitional one within the NAACP's political advocacy, navigating a new political terrain. The state infrastructure definitely wasn't as pumping as it had been last year, but we engaged with everything the state conference was, and we appreciate everyone in the general membership who responded to our calls to action. We also are just really fortunate here in this branch, particularly, to have an unparalleled level of subject matter expertise. And so I think there was a little bit of a tension for everyone here, because we were so anxious to advocate at the state level, and things were just flying. It was sort of a little bit of political whack-a-mole, like the Chuck E. Cheese game, where like things were just happening really quickly. So it was a lot of defensive work. And so there's a lot of work to happen in between this year and next to get organized and coordinated at the state conference level, to get the branches infrastructure up to all branches infrastructure ready to support the state conference. And then our work here in the branch is really to support the types of things that are on both the state agenda and that really uniquely are important to Arlington. And so many of our committee members were fierce advocates working to stay advocating and agitating at the state level. A couple quick updates, and then I do hope we also hear from education, because a lot of things happened with education particularly, and housing as well. But I'll highlight just a couple. Highlight might not be the right word. I will address a couple. First, one bill that passed on the education front, and I hope our education committee chairs can speak to this with some time as well. The legislature passed a bill to require school boards to collaborate with local law enforcement when conducting audits of school safety. So they used to have to send the report to local law enforcement, but now they need to coordinate directly. And next, the legislature passed a bill that will require school principals to report to law enforcement all possible acts that might be misdemeanors. Remember, our principals and teachers aren't law enforcement, but they have to assess what might be a misdemeanor and report it to law enforcement and to the to parents as well. It used to be only for felonies, and so that is a really problematic bill that we'll need to watch implementation of locally, and I hope our experts can speak to that. There was some legislation having to do with the use of race in selection criteria for our governor's schools, eliminating the ability to use race in that. Moving off of education, there was a bill that the Political Action Committee is particularly interested in advancing some work on legislative tracking at the county level and in school board meetings. And so there was a bill actually sort of amping up the requirements to post minutes and meeting minutes promptly and rigorously after a public meeting occurs. So the Political Action Committee is anxious to explore that and think about what that might look like. And there was also a bill to study broadband affordability. So I know that's another important initiative here. Two last things with my time, and then Megan will finish. Our Political Action Committee received some outreach from Mr. Fergie Reed son, Jr., I guess. He is the son of the first ever African-American elected to the General Assembly in Virginia after Reconstruction. He was elected in 1967. And he reached out to us to ask us to pass along a message from the Virginia State Conference, which I will pop in the chat here. And what he wants us to keep our eye on, and the Virginia State Conference has supported, is a case moving through the Fourth Circuit, which addresses the fact that our current House of Delegates is seated using census data that precedes the 2020, that is not based on the 2020 census. So it's based on bad census data, outdated census data. So that's a case, the state conference took a position on it, and we just want to pass that along to our members in case in your individual capacity, you're interested in advocating on that. And then last thing, because we have to end on a positive note, we just have to give a shout out that today was the beginning of the confirmation hearing to confirm the first Black woman to the United States Supreme Court in 233 years of US history. So if you're so inclined, it's our senators who vote on that. And so do feel empowered to write directly to Mark Warner and Tim Kaine and express a vote of support. It would be just a powerful way to express your political advocacy at this historic moment. So feel free to drop them a note while we, this evening, and express your request for them to vote for the confirmation. Megan.
All right, thanks, Jamie. So I wanted to give an update on a couple of bills. Jamie mentioned at the top that we were really closely following some criminal justice initiatives as well as voting rights. I don't have a lot of good news on either front. And so for the first one, I actually saw some questions and comments in the chat about this. So I've got some notes because I want to make sure I get it right and try to clarify some of this. So House Bill 670 was bipartisan legislation that would have allowed the governing body of any county with the county manager plan of government to appoint an independent policing auditor that reports to the county board instead of the county manager. So it's important to note that in Virginia, this would only apply to Arlington County having that type of county government. And we are very disappointed that Governor Youngkin vetoed that bill based on a complete misunderstanding of the legislation. In fact, in the governor's veto message, he incorrectly asserted that the auditor, quote, would be given the full powers of Arlington's law enforcement civilian oversight body to make binding disciplinary determinations, unquote. So contrary to that, existing state law already permits Virginia localities to create law enforcement civilian oversight bodies to investigate complaints of serious police misconduct and gives such boards the power to apply for subpoenas for police evidence to make binding disciplinary determinations. So back in July of 2021, I'm sure you'll all remember that Arlington County adopted an ordinance creating a law enforcement community oversight board, but they did not authorize the board to conduct independent investigations or to make disciplinary determinations as that law permitted. Instead, they vested the investigatory authority in a full-time independent policing auditor who must conduct investigations concurrently with the police department. The oversight board only comes in to review after an investigation is completed. So the House bill would have allowed the Arlington County Board, instead of the county manager, to appoint the independent policing auditor. Since the manager appoints the police chief and has supervisory authority over the police department under our existing law, the legislature thought this small change was necessary to lessen the appearance of conflict and to support the auditor's independence. Unfortunately, our governor vetoed that bill. On March 1st, our branch released a public statement regarding that veto, and I will pop that in the chat as soon as I'm done talking. And currently, the county board is working to clarify the bill's intent with the governor, so we will keep you posted on any changes, if any changes occur on that front. Moving into voting rights, SJ1 would have provided that every individual person who meets the qualifications of voters should have the fundamental right to vote, and it should not be abridged by law. And so specifically, it gave two examples. A person who has been convicted of a felony should not be entitled to vote during any period of incarceration for that felony, but then upon release from incarceration and without any further action required, would then be vested with all their political rights, including their voting rights. Currently, in order to be qualified to vote, a person convicted of a felony must have their civil rights restored by the governor. So this would have made that a much easier and more automatic process. Unfortunately, after a long 2-year process to even get to this point, it was approved by the Senate on February 15th, but then it was passed by indefinitely by the House subcommittee. So this is a huge blow to equal voting rights, and it keeps voters from being able to decide in November if that should have been adopted in the Constitution. So again, we'll keep a close eye on that and continue advocating. And as Jamie said, I want to end on some sort of a good note. On one bill that we did not want to pass that did not make it anywhere, House Bill 24 would have required identification containing a photograph in order to vote. And luckily that died in House subcommittee, which is good because that would have restricted voting rights as well. So a lot of hard work, and we didn't get all the progress that we wanted or that we've seen in previous years. But as JD said, we will continue agitating and advocating for what we know is right. So JD, back over to you.
Thank you, Megan and Jamie, for your hard work and attention to detail. Lots going on in political action. There was a few questions that came up in the and you referenced the Education Committee. So I had a conversation with Executive Committee, I think last month, yeah. So NAACP branches you can have up to 20 some odd committees. So I just want to be clear. You know, every committee is supposed to report to the Executive Committee, who then those committees are supposed to report to the general membership. There is no way. There is just no way. Every committee can get 20 minutes, and every committee, there's important areas and we can change. So what we're doing for this year, we're going to rotate, like 1 month you'll see 4 or 5 committees, then you'll see the next 4, try to give them 10 minutes instead of 2 minutes. And then they're submitting their reports as well. So if there's information that you want to look into or need to follow up on, read the report. If you want to be more specific, reach out to those chairs or attend the meetings themselves, attend those meetings, and you can get some clarification. But there is a lot of information that you can't cover it all in 10 minutes. You can't cover it all in 2 minutes. So I just wanted to let everyone know what's going on there. Are you ready, economic development?
I am ready, JD. I didn't realize I had two features in tonight's agenda. So appreciate my friends in political action for taking over for a GIF, but I am ready with our small business spotlight. So those of you on the call who are members received an email. Really excited to spotlight Dr. Sarah wanted to feature a woman of color as one of our small business spotlights. So I had the chance to feature Nova Optique and Eye Care. What's really unique about this organization in particular is it's a mixture of the fashion and the medical component. So they offer a wide variety of eye care treatments, anything from specialty contact lenses, dry eye treatment, LASIK referral, have the latest technology to support all of your health needs. But one thing that Dr. Vergey was very specific about is she also wanted the opportunity to blend fashion, particularly around leveraging small businesses and boutique frames. So that is something that's incredibly unique about their group and organization. Something that Dr. Vergey was really excited to share. So I am going to drop their website in the chat and recommend y'all check them out. In terms of the Economic Development Committee updates, again, our big focus is outreach to small business owners of color, so we can continue to spotlight them in emails to our membership, on our website, and on social media. And encourage our membership to frequent these businesses. That said, we are always growing our list, and we are partnering with our connections in the community to build out our list of small business owners of color. One thing I will say is I welcome folks to email me if you have any referrals for a small business spotlight. In addition, if you're interested in joining the committee, particularly we welcome everyone, and specifically would love to have folks who have a background with different languages or speak different languages. Yes, Alyssa, in terms of outreach via the SWAM process, it's funny that you mentioned that because we are actually, I actually attended an event with the Columbia Pipe Partnership where they had a speaker from the Virginia Chamber of Commerce come and speak about how businesses can become SWAM certified. So we'll be sharing that with the committee. And we also are partnering with the Arlington Chamber of Commerce to talk a little bit more in our meeting on Sunday about how businesses can become SWAN certified, because I know they have a big effort to offer membership discounts to SWAN businesses. So thanks, Alyssa, for that. Call it in the chat. Again, last thing that I would push is we're always looking for more folks to support these outreach efforts to small business owners of color to see how we can support them, both in marketing, but also advocacy at the local level. Particularly interested in folks who have a background with different languages. So my email is in the chat. Would love to hear from y'all. And with that, I will yield my time. I think Kellen is next with housing.
Yeah, Kellen is next. Thank you, Megan. While you just for a second, I'm going to put in the chat. We really could use members working on our economic development committee. I know we have how many now? 6 or 7, maybe.
Yeah, I think we have close to 8. We just had one join, so love it.
But a lot of the meetings for this chamber, for our committee, occur during the workday, right? What I'm going to also do is put into the chat a link to the chamber's upcoming business gala. So if you're interested, since we are members, there is a nonprofit, and we get a discount if we decide to attend. Feel free. I think they're going to have it at the Ritz this year. Thank you, Mike, for putting all those in there. Plus, we have a couple more chambers, the Black Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber. We're trying to extend, right, and be members, but actually do some work with them, work collaboratively. So that's what we can use your help. So come on in with us here at the NAACP and join the fight. We have a government affairs meeting coming up, right, Megan, I think? So yeah, great job on your part and the rest of the team, okay?
Thank you.
All right, a lot of good work going on there. So Kellen, are you ready for your 10 minutes of fame? Of course he is.
I am, JD, thanks. So an update from the Housing Committee. So we've been busy in the last month. Let me start by talking a little bit about some of our legislative advocacy work. So we were very, very happy to see that some legislation that we developed the legislative proposal for last summer based on the situation at the Serrano ended up being signed, or sorry, it has not been signed into law, but it passed the General Assembly. So we're now waiting on the governor to hopefully sign it. So that was House Bill 802, and it gives local governments the authority to sue on behalf of tenants whose health and safety rights have been violated. And where we think this will be especially helpful is residents who have issues with mold in their units and landlords who won't address those issues and those health concerns. We think that the county, this will give them a lot more leverage to require landlords to address and mitigate these health and safety issues. So we're really excited about this becoming law. We've already started talking with the county about potential implementation, as well as talking to statewide advocates and advocates in Northern Virginia about what would be the best way to have local governments start enforcing this new authority to help especially low-income tenants. So we're super excited about that. And thank you to everyone who participated either in testifying before House and Senate committees or sending emails and other communications to General Assembly delegates and senators is very much appreciated. And thank you all so much for your help on that. I will say the picture is not rosy for just about every other piece of pro-tenant legislation that went before the General Assembly. So unfortunately, out of the probably 10 or so housing bills that we were tracking and supporting this session, only one other pro-tenant bill, in addition to the bill that we had actually worked on, was able to pass the General Assembly. Mostly the landlord and realtor communities came out against a lot of really great bills, which was really unfortunate. And they either did not make it out of Senate committee or House committee. And in a couple instances, there were a couple bills, including one by Delegate Lopez that we were really supportive of, that after passing House committee died on the floor, with some of the same legislators who voted for it in committee voting against it on the floor. So it was a frustrating process, but we are happy to at least see some progress on the health and safety enforcement bill that we had been working on since last summer. So again, thank you for everyone who participated in that. I will say we also have been busy. We got the zoning reform recommendation letter out to the county board. I think 2 weeks ago at this point, and I'll drop, for those who missed the email about that, I'll drop the link to that in the chat so that you can take a look at our letter that really lays out what our priorities are for the county board and the county manager to really infuse equity into zoning within Arlington County. We're supportive of efforts that the county has taken thus far, but we think they need to go a lot further if they're going to truly right the wrongs of the past, or at least try to, and address a lot of the longstanding issues that we have in our community with how land is allocated, how housing is allocated. So we were excited to get that letter to them. We've been working on it for many months now. And so please let us know if you have any questions about that as well. We put together a budget advocacy letter as well for the county board's FY23 budget. And that is something that we hope to get out soon to the county manager and the county board to address the state of housing within the budget. I don't think our committee has the same view on how generous the budget is when it comes to housing. I know the county manager said that was one of the priorities. I think our view is that that's not reflected in the budget. And so we have a number of recommendations tied to other policy recommendations that we've made in the last year, as well as specifics to this budget, including enhancing the ability of the Office of Human Rights to actually enforce fair housing complaints in a much more effective way than they are now, instead of cutting the budget as is currently proposed. We are proposing, additional funds for planning and development efforts within CPHD. Right now, we don't even have enough staff within the county to add any additional affordable housing projects. So we're very concerned about that. And there's a number of other things that hopefully you guys will all see when our budget letter goes out that we think are very important for the community if we're going to become the community that we like to say that we are. Also, a quick update. We're continuing to monitor the situation at the Serrano. There hasn't really been a whole lot new there to talk about, but we are continuing to work with advocates in the county as any situations do arise, as well as working with the county to adopt or address the long-term strategies that county staff have proposed to ensure that a situation like the Serrano apartment debacle does not happen again. And again, when going back to the budget, none of that funding is included in the proposed budget. So that's another concern that we had, and one that we're working with the county board to try and address. Also, the Columbia Gardens, which is a garden style apartment building on Columbia Pike. There's a displacement happening. It's being redeveloped into luxury condos. Residents were given about 45 days to relocate and find other affordable housing within the community. So we've been working with local legislators, including Patrick Hope, and county staff and organizations like Bugada and other tenants advocacy groups to monitor that situation, make recommendations to the county on how we can make sure that we have advance notice and we're not caught off guard about these displacements that are happening due to redevelopment. and also encouraging them to come up with toolkit that will help mitigate the impact of any future displacement that's going to be occurring, and also take another look at the incentives that we have in place to ensure that we keep affordable housing in the county, because as we lose additional market rate affordable housing, it's worthwhile to take a look at and say, are we missing something? Are incentives not good enough because they're not being utilized in all the cases where they could be, and see what else we can do better as a community to address that. We're also in conversations with the new owners of Barcroft, and we'd met with them to discuss some of our priorities for the affordable housing effort going forward, which will be affordable for the next 99 years, which is great. But we want to make sure that residents are put first in any decisions that are made. So we're continuing that conversation with the county and with the new ownership there. I think those are the major updates from the Housing Committee. We're excited for Fair Housing Month, which will start next month. And we will also be happy to work with the community once the regional assessment of fair housing impediments, once that data and that report comes out I think it's June now. It sounds like there's a delay. It was supposed to come out in April. But we're looking forward to working with the community to provide feedback on the recommendations for how the county and the region can improve fair housing. And we look forward to getting input from all of our members, as well as the communities that we work with throughout Arlington County on that. So I think that's it, JD. Thank you.
All right, well, a lot's going on there, Kellen, quite a bit. We have an upcoming meeting, right, with Mark, and what day is that?
We are meeting with Mark in April. We're meeting with Matt DeFronti and Takis this week, and other county board members soon as well.
Sure, got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll be on that call. All right, thank you, Kellen. Let's go with Scholarship Committee. Adora?
Hello.
Hey, Adora, how are you?
I apologize. I'm having some tech issues, so I can't come on camera. If that is
it's okay. Go ahead.
that okay? It's a very brief update. We've just closed out our scholarship application for this year. So the committee is busy compiling everything and getting it ready for our group of volunteers who volunteer to review applications. So we want to, put a thank you out there to all of our volunteers. We're going to get that process started shortly. So that the reviews will be on track to be able to notify the students by the end of April, early May. The committee is next kind of turning our focus to figuring out and coming up with some fund development strategies and materials and things to try to boost our scholarship funding and get out there and be a little proactive in trying to help the branch bring in some more funding so that we can keep helping our students. Other than that, we're just kind of in that process right now. We are open to new members. If any members of the branch would like to join us in this work, we would love to have you. And that's all I got.
Yeah, how are we doing with the readers for the scholarship applications? I saw the number of total applications that we received. It was not as many as last year. Mm-hmm. But how many readers do we have?
We've got a group of about 10. So we have ample readers to review the applications and get multiple eyes on each application.
Sure. All right. I will. Okay, great. Thank you for that report. I think I missed the last meeting, but I'll reach out to you and the team here in the next day or so. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Great job.
Thank you.
Environmental and Climate Justice Committee.
Hello.
Hey, hey, Gabrielle. Hey.
You see me there?
Yeah, so many folks that track you down here.
It's all good. So we had our March meeting already. We have the notes sent out on the combined package, but just as a brief overview, we were supposed to have a speaker from the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality. She could not join us, so we ended up discussing some of the things happening in the county, one of which is the Community Energy Plan Implementation Framework, which is out in draft form after having reviewed it over a year ago. So we discussed that, and we also discussed the tree canopy specific situations in the county, including towns of Glebe, Townsend 24, and a stormwater structure that might be going up in Green Valley. So a few of those things, we have a few action items to follow up and figure out what's going on there, and if there are things that we can be doing to address concerns that we have. So if you are interested in hearing from our speaker, we are having our meeting at usual time, which is 6:30 on the first Sunday of the month. So for next month, let me just pull up the calendar here. And that will likely be April 3rd. Let's see, am I correct? Just the 4th, the 3rd. Excellent. So yeah, send me a message in the chat, or you can send the branch an email if you're interested, and I will send you all an invitation. So that's just the latest update we've got.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Is Kenyatta on tonight? Kenyatta on tonight?
I don't believe she is on tonight.
Okay. Thank you for everything that you're doing there. I just want to put it out to the membership. We still have 85 individuals on the call. If you're interested in serving on our Environmental and Climate Justice Committee, or even holding a position of leadership in that committee, please reach out to Gabrielle or Kenyatta and let them know your desires, or just email us at NAACP Arlington branch, because we can use your help in this area. All right, well, thank you, Gabrielle, and all the best, and keep up the good work, okay?
Sounds good.
All right. So we are way ahead of schedule, and that is perfectly fine. We can do that every once in a while. It's I don't have that many remarks. If anyone on the call wants to donate to the scholarship, yeah, thank you, Adora. If you want to donate, we have a link. I don't have many remarks remaining for tonight. You know, it's been tough for a lot of us in all of our committees. I remind you that what we do is volunteer work. No one's getting paid for this, right? So it takes up a lot of our time, personal time, but so proud of everyone on our committees and our chairs. They're doing amazing work across the board. And I think Jamie talked about it a little earlier. We have some, you know, areas of expertise here that you may not find in other nonprofit social justice organizations, and everyone, you know, every day is not a rainbow day or Sunday or we're happy go lucky, but it's we make things happen, and everyone has got to come together when it's time to come together, and we just make it happen. So hats off to everyone. It is actually 8:23. I'm going to stay on to at least 8:35 because I usually stay at 8:45 to entertain any questions that may come up. We have done what's set forth in the agenda on time tonight, and that concludes the meeting. The meeting is now adjourned.